Oh, wow.
That was
Get
close.
in. I'm jealous. Oh, here's something I ordered from my bartender.
Oh, look at that. What's that?
This is a very cold Campari and orange juice.
At
It's
you.
what are you drinking?
My glass is empty.
Ooh,
I think I'll try one of these little numbers here.
a little what?
Blue Dragon Original Sweet Chili. Mm. I'm
For
developing
drinking?
a taste for cocktail. Yeah, well, yeah,
Well,
okay.
I
Oh. Mm-hmm.
it's tropical temperature, so I thought I'll have a tropical drink. Hello,
Ah,
everybody.
that's
Thanks
what it is.
for you joining us. Sorry, Mark, I interrupted you there. There might be a little bit of that going on because this is my first ever Instagram interview. Have you done this before, Mark?
Including this time? Oh, my head.
Yeah.
This is the first time. Yeah.
Okay. So that makes me very happy. Hello, Johan. Oh, hey, family. Hi. Lovely to see you. I've put my family in the living room. There is every chance that we'll get interruption from 4, 6 year olds, little people. But yeah, so this is it's basically our first time. So we're just trying it out. It'll be fun,
Sure.
hopefully.
Hopefully.
And you get your drink there. I think. Oh yes,
Yeah.
nice,
That
nice.
summertime thing.
Yes, exactly.
Very good. Well, great.
So I think we have a few people. I'm just looking at who's joining us. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces or familiar names. They're basically my friends. So it's lovely. And families and people from my home village, where I'm from. So
Oh, really?
I'm sure there'll
Hello,
be.
home village.
Yeah, hello. Well, this is the thing, with lockdown, everybody's going digital, and now you can reach people from far and afield.
It's great, isn't it? We've spent more time as a family around the table eating than ever before, and I've joined up with people on Zoom and
Yeah.
Messenger, thingy, Facebooky stuff, family and friends. And it's a strange thing that we're forced apart by this virus, but we're also coming together. So that's
True.
we need company, don't we?
We do, and you're absolutely right. You're very much forced to get on with the people that you're kind of locked in with.
Mm-hmm.
We had actually proof of that today. I think we were all feeling it. It was just
Oh,
I don't know, getting to us a little bit, like the 4 year old, the 6 year old, and then the 42 year old, and the 45 year old on top of that. So we've had a bit of a rough day, and then I had a phone call from a friend who just phoned and said, I need to let off some steam. So she was having the same day. And I think that's the beauty with this, if there is a beauty with coronavirus, everybody is in the same situation.
well, yes, I think you're right, Jenny. And some people it's easier for them to handle it, and others not. And yeah, I've got a 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old daughter, and the 16-year-old had a bit of a meltdown a while ago. But it's just a pressure valve. I'm hoping,
Yeah.
you know. So
So
okay.
how does it work for you though in your family? Your kids are a bit older. Do you have to deal with the homeschooling or do they take their own responsibilities?
Unfortunately, they take their own responsibilities, which is one of them's doing brilliantly, and the other one was in her pajamas at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Sorry, folks, might be guilty of poor parenting there, but if you start poking bears, you eventually get a bite, don't you? And it's maybe not the best way forward. But
Well, see, that's another thing. We have to just choose our battles ever more now than before. You don't
yeah,
want to start a fight with somebody that's not in the mood for it.
well, exactly. And I think I for one, I'm very lucky that the kids are they're pretty mellow, and they are kind of self-propelled, and they're
That's good.
social creatures. So I think they're losing out on a lot of proper. I should be careful what I'm going to say here. I was going to say physical contact, but let's rephrase that.
I know what you mean.
Proper being with people rather than virtual
Yeah.
stuff. And processing that as a teenager, or never mind a 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 6-year-old. That must be a bit odd for them.
Yeah, I
But
know. I know this is something for the history books for the future. The kids are going to know that they've lived through it, and they'll be telling their kids and grandkids about the COVID-19 lockdown.
Yeah, well, great, but yeah, it'll all be on the cloud. This conversation and all the other ones, and they can laugh at Grandad, Dad, Granny. Yeah.
Yes,
Well, good.
Granny, I'm so old. I'll probably not be here when my kids have kids anyway. That's the aim. No, that's terrible. I love my
The
children.
water of life. What are you talking about, Jenny? We're immortal.
Immortal, that's it. Well, Mark, we've been chit-chatting now for a little while. I just wanted to see if there were people joining in, and now we're starting to see a few more people, and there's some that aren't people from my home village, some that must be friends of yours, and other people that have just seen that we're doing this and are willing to come and listen to us. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I'm Jenny, and I'm going to be chatting with Mark, who is the Jolly Toper of Edinburgh. And he does whiskey tastings, and he's very popular. Very popular whiskey tastings, and he is probably trying to think how many people I know that knows a lot about whiskey. I know a lot of people that know a lot about whiskey, but you must be one of the top 3 about with the most whiskey knowledge, I think. I'm just trying to think because I don't want to offend anybody. You're probably at the top of those top 3, maybe. I don't know. There's so many friends that have obviously certain whiskey skills, but I think your skills and your knowledge is. I mean, I don't want to ask you how old you are, but in decades, how many decades have you been in the whiskey industry now, Mark?
Well, 20 years ago, I got my first paycheck. 20 odd years ago for being in the working at the Scotch Malt Whisky Society.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose it's all relative. It's like time in a cask. When people say a whiskey's 12 years old, it doesn't really tell you very much. You know, the cask might be knackered or it might be fresh. So a measure of time is one thing, but it's the school that you go to. It's the people that you meet, as you know. That I mean, you work with some great guys, and being next to these people, you learn a lot very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, so 20 years isn't like a blink of the eye, but I think it's the places that you go, the people that you meet, and the drams that you have, and all that kind of thing. You know, so 20 years, great years.
20 years. Well, that's. I mean, I thought you'd been longer than that. So it's 20 years ago since you were at Scotch Malt Whisky Society.
1999, I think I started.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So.
I mean, because I don't look like a spring chicken, I think people assume that's what I've done all my days. But I came into it, I suppose, a little bit later than some people at the moment. Yeah. So
what did you do before, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I went to college.
Yeah.
You know, for a few years, and then I was a postman for a few years, and then I went to Australia for about a year, and back and did a number of jobs trying to find my way, and then eventually I thought I might try being a secondary school teacher teaching mathematics.
Oh wow! I did not know that.
And it was during that period that I discovered whiskey as a profession rather than as a passion or a drink.
Okay. Oh, I see. Well, I mean, am I right in thinking you're not from Edinburgh? You're from up north, aren't you?
That's right.
Yes.
There and thereabouts. So we moved about as a family. You know, you kept on getting moved on. You know, the authorities didn't like you being around there. I am joking. We come from a very nice background.
That was a good laugh.
Portsoy, Aberdeen, Elgin, and the Black Isle.
That's right. Portsoy. I knew Elgin, but I wasn't sure of the others. So Portsoy, Elgin, and Black Isle.
And Aberdeen as well for a period.
Aberdeen. Yeah. Oh, right. So where did you go primary school? Was that in Elgin?
Primary 1 to primary 11 was at Broomhill Primary School in Aberdeen. Oh. And then we moved to Elgin for primary 7.
Oh, okay.
A bit of a shock to the system when you've spent 6 years trying to get to the top of the hill. You know, you're primary 7 and you're the king. Well, not the king. You know, everybody's below you, and then you move to another school and you're like lost.
I know.
Tuchters up there, which is what it is. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a tutor on in a couple of next week. I'm speaking to Mark Watt, who's
Oh yes,
he does
proper.
the lingo. Yeah, he's very good at that. So it'll be interesting to hear his points of growing up near
Have you
distilleries.
got, have you got somebody sign languaging for Mark? You know, to translate?
Do you know what? I might figure out the subtitles at some point. I mean, I've only just figured out this whole Insta Live thing, and I've been spending most of the afternoon trying to figure out a way of saving the video, and I'm sure it'll be fine. If anybody has any ideas, feel free to share. I'll be fine. Yeah, so you do have, I mean, did you live near distilleries when you were in Elgin and Aberdeen, or were you
Well,
not near?
in Portsoy, of course, there's Glenglassaugh, which in 1973 we moved away there. So rather especially for me, that I've got a bottle of 1973 family silver Glenglassaugh, and it's also the year that my wife was born, 1973.
Oh,
So in a couple of years, I'll do a vertical Glenglassaugh tasting because
oh,
it's
that would be lovely.
yeah, it's a nice whiskey, you know.
Yeah.
Every whiskey can be nice, but that one seems to be nice a little bit more often than average. In Aberdeen, there was not really any distilleries. There was Devana and North of Scotland were all closed, you know, at the beginning of the 20th century. And so, but in Elgin, there's really only Linkwood and Glenmurray. And I stayed on Bruceland Road, which is the same road that has Glenmurray. So it was very, very close.
Yeah, so Glen Murray is funny because you drive through this living, like this housing estate or area with lots of houses, and then you kind of turn right, or you turn down the road a little bit, and there's Glen Murray.
That's right.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. But you've also got Benriach as you come out of Elgin, excuse me, which is quite close to Elgin, Benriach, of course, but not in Elgin, I suppose.
Well, I mean, they're all just all around, you know, Milton,
Yeah,
Duff, Glenbossy, Longmorn.
yeah, they're all there.
Yes, they're just here, there, and everywhere. Aye, it's good.
Yeah. Okay, well, great. So you have 20 years experience in the industry. You've been doing tastings as the Jolly Topper for how long now?
I think I found a receipt the other day for November 2020. So I'll be 20 years doing that as well in a few months. Which
November 2000, you mean? To November 2000, so 20 years in November.
aye. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you started pretty soon after you were at the Scotch Malt Whisky Society.
It seems to be the case. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised it was that early, but I guess so. Yeah, 20 years, that's a long time.
No, absolutely. I mean, I know. So I know that was where your first whiskey job was. But so from our history, we so sometimes it feels like, oh, how did we meet, or where did we know each other from? But obviously, we both worked for the J&A Mitchell family. You were at the Cadenhead shop at the bottom of the Royal Mile, and I was working at Springbank and Kilcairn at the time. That's kind of how we met, I think. That's how we know each other from.
Oh, I would have thought so. I don't recall knowing you before that. But when did you join J&A?
2009, I think it was. Yeah, January 2010, December 2009.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. And yeah, that's one of the things about the industry. You know, I suppose it's the same in industries. You meet folks.
Yeah.
And some people go on at different jobs, and you lose track of them. And it's as you know, it's a small industry. It's a very cozy industry. Sometimes too small.
Yeah, you don't get away with much, do you? I mean, I know that it is small and it is really a friendly industry. We've talked about, well, I've seen other live interviews talking about how friendly the industry is, the distilling industry is, how whiskey distilleries aren't, as much as their competitors, they are also helping each other along with promoting their products. There's enough whiskey for everyone out there. I mean, we've all got different tastes. Not everybody likes the smoky peaty ones. Not everybody likes the Speyside ones. You know, there's lots of whiskey out there for every taste. And that's why I think there isn't really, when I've been on the road, I've not really felt any hidden agendas or any animosity from other ambassadors or sales managers. I think it's quite a friendly industry.
I think there's some people are quite larger than life,
Yes.
And being an ambassador, it suits them to be.
Yeah, a lot of people are born to be.
Sure. Yeah.
So you obviously not only do you do tastings, I'll talk more about your tastings in a minute, but do you actually go to tastings as well? Do you enjoy going to see other people doing tastings and other distilleries doing tastings? And
Oh, for sure. You know, I mean, I really like whiskey, and there's not much about it that I don't like. But it usually costs money to go to tastings. I'm not a man of great means. It costs time, and although the kids are growing up, you know, you still got your duties to perform as a parent.
Yeah.
And then of course it's alcohol, which, you know, takes a toll on the liver if you don't watch out what you're doing. So all these things put together, it sounds like I'm making an excuse for not going to other people's tastings. But I've done a few in the recent past. I went to Old and Rare in Glasgow, which really,
oh yeah,
magical. You know, it really did rekindle a certain kind of fire inside me to be in that such a wonderfully social atmosphere. There was no nobody's out there to exploit an audience or anything like that. It was all very wholesome. So
yeah,
kind of events. I went to my friend's tasting, Dram Fool, and it was really nice to sort of just partake rather than sort of, you know, be in the class rather than take the class kind of style. Yeah.
yeah. Have you ever, like, what would be your dream tasting actually? What tasting would you pay a lot of money to go to if you could?
Yeah. Well, I did ask people recently what tastings were memorable to them.
Yeah.
I think it's where you do a tasting. That's part of the magic.
Yeah.
I remember being inside the still at Bladnoch and thinking, this is a great place for a tasting, isn't it?
How many people were with you?
There was 6 or 7 of us, you know. I think it's not like Arran and their tiny little stills or Springbank, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We weren't sitting at each other's knees, so I thought that would be quite cool. And then it's the people that you're with, you know, the guys that are hosting the tasting. Mm-hmm. That's part of the magic. So, you know, I remember fondly somebody like, you know, Frank McHardy and the malting floors at Springbank, and, you know, you listen to guys like this, and there's nobody really above them. You know, they've got it all upstairs. It's wonderful. They have got charisma, and they're very modest, and it's an inspiration and a lesson to listen to people like that. And then absolutely the drams as well. You know, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Closed distilleries, I think, are quite a magical treat to try something that's just a blast from the past. So I think, yeah.
Is that what you would say your area of expertise is? The closed. Frank McHardy, yes. Is that where your area of expertise would be, say, the closed distilleries? Because people do come to you with questions about that quite a lot, I hear.
I don't know if I've got an area of expertise, Jenny. I don't know if I've got an area of expertise particularly. No, I would say I'm a jack of all trades. I know a little bit about a lot. And
okay.
And I suppose the older ones, they do interest me because maybe it's easier because it's a finite amount of information that's there. Yeah. Whereas I find myself a bit adrift these days because there's so much continually changing to be up to date. New distilleries, new managers, you know, new processes and all that. But with the old stuff, it's a bit of a cheat, you know. You know the dates they open and they close and what happened.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah.
The job you do now, you're with the Royal Mile Whisky Shop on the Royal Mile. And yep. I spend quite a lot of time there. Well, I feel I spend a lot of time there, but maybe I don't. I'm there a couple of times before Christmas and a few times in the summer. Just usually doing whiskey tastings or brand awareness. And I notice people come into the shop and I'm like this listening to what they're looking for. And quite a lot of the time, the first question they ask is, right, I want to buy something that I can't get anywhere else. Isn't that the most asked question you always get?
What's the most expensive bottle you got?
Yeah, that one as well. That was the one. And people are really not maybe always got clued up on the side of whiskey. But what I love about the Royal Mile Whiskey guys and girls, and you, obviously you're one of them, is that they don't laugh in somebody's face. I know, not that you ever would. The customer's always right, but they're so good at dealing with that question that they get out. What's the most expensive? And what can I get here? What can I get that I can't get anywhere else? So these questions are, if you close the door, you'll be like, how many times were we asked that question today? That's just like, come up with something original. But I think what you guys are doing is so, you're really good at finding out what they are actually looking for when you're asking. You're finding out what's your budget, of course, and what does the person that you're buying the whiskey for normally drinking. And I think you're quite talented that way, to take your time and investigate. And you always feel like the customers really do get a lovely, well, not just a lovely experience, but actually they end up going out there with a bottle of whiskey that they maybe hadn't thought about buying.
Oh, for sure. The team are really good. They're very patient, and I always think, okay, we've heard the question for the 10,000th time. I don't think I'm exaggerating, but they're asking it for the first time. So you just sort of realize, if you've been anywhere yourself, somewhere new, and you want to buy a bottle of the local wine, try some of the foods, or you're asking for advice from a local, and how many times you've kind of had a negative experience where they don't really care about you. They're really just want your bucks, and they can say anything, and you're forced to believe it. But I really hope that's not the experience people get when they come to the Royal Mile Whiskies. But I mean, the staff there were one of the big lures for me to go there, because I knew them and I knew their attitude, and it was a very welcoming environment. And
absolutely.
Yes, I
the
love
fellas.
travel.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, I love travel, but it's not so easy now. But I don't suppose you have to travel so much when you've got a shop in the Royal Mile selling whiskey. The world comes to you. People from Iceland, Peru, England as well. They sometimes come up.
Yeah. They make it. Yeah, they make it. And the times I've been in, you get people coming in and they don't always tell you, but then after maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, they'll come up and say, oh, I'm the distiller for that distillery. And then they point at an obscure bottle on the World Whiskey or something, and they're like, oh, that's so great. I love that. You do attract some really nice customers. And you're right, the people that work there are very patient. Some of them are just young guys, and I just love the way they interact with the customers, and the knowledge is fantastic. You must do quite a lot of staff training, or do they already have the interest when they join you, I suppose?
Well, most everybody that looks for a job with us has a willingness to participate in the industry. That's what they do. So the basic passion is there. We can't teach passion. We can teach dates and releases and tasting notes and so on and so forth. But it's a difficult part of the job if you're interviewing somebody. It's a strange environment. It's like a test, and some people just don't do well at tests. I guess people who are good at interviews will just sort of know when that person is right. And the thing that we look for is just that kind of personality and passion. And from having lots of people join us, it's really encouraging to see just how interested they are, and how quickly they learn, and how much they throw themselves into it. It's such a passionate business, and I'm sure it's the same with art, music, food, and other realms I don't get involved with. But for us, you and I, and most everybody who's watching, it's whiskey for some reason, the water of life. Yeah. It really kind of engages us, and we enjoy it. We talk about it. We drink it. We meet people like minds, and when you're earning your living doing that, then it seems a bit of a blessing and a bonus.
I agree 100%. And I wonder, Is there any other industry that like that? I don't know. Is there? You know, people. You do tastings and people are always happy, and people and they come to the shop and they get what they want, and it's a part of Scotland. It's a massive part of Scotland, and to part of working with Royal Mile Whiskies and any whiskey companies is obviously to be a Scottish ambassador, and it's not hard, is it? Scotland is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I suppose sport. You know, you might get people who play sport that would be or play music. You know, that they've got a talent and a gift, but maybe your football team loses. But so maybe you buy a bottle that doesn't taste so good, but you come back. You know, you'll support your team for the next game. Yeah, that's a shared, understandable passion.
Yeah.
When you meet geeks for Star Wars or something that means nothing to you, I think you do get a sense of respect for their enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a life lesson, you know. It's just because people aren't into what you're into, you know, you shouldn't really be down on them or anything like that.
No, absolutely. No, you're right. Like, I came into whiskey quite late. I was in my 20s, mid-20s, and I can't remember life before then, to be honest. Since then, whiskey has basically touched every part of my. Like, I've been all over the world thanks to whiskies. I've met some really nice people. I know you through whiskey. It's literally the spirit of Scotland. That's such a cliche thing to say. It just came to me. Well, guess what? I have had questions sent in to me in advance of this interview. I noticed that Mark Watt has joined us there, so he might enjoy this question as well. I think it is a serious question anyway, from the other Swede in your life, Mark Davidson, is Johan Svärd, who is, he's from Stockholm, so he talks like this in Swedish. Oh, Mark.
Could that be Johan Svärd?
I don't know if it's just with my internet, but you've got a bit funny. Yes, sorry, there you're back again. What did you say about Johan there? Sorry.
You said that the other Swede in my life, Johan. I remember sharing a bed with Johan in Campbell.
Oh no, you're cutting out. Is this your? Is it? I wonder if it's your internet. Oh, all I can hear is you remember sharing a bed with somebody in Campbelltown, and it wasn't me, I can tell you that. I wonder, do you have a spot in your house that's stronger Wi-Fi? Can you hear me, Mark? If you can. Oh, there you go. I was going to say, if you can hear me, touch your nose. My 6-year-old has Zoom classes every Tuesday, and thanks, Rona. He has internet Zoom classes every Tuesday, and the teacher, I put them all on mute, so the teacher says, touch your nose if you want to answer the question. So they're all sitting like this. I think it's your internet, Mark. I'm sorry. You're living out in the sticks. But what I'll do now is that other Swede in your life, I shall share his question, and it is like so. Have you had a dram from all the existing and recently closed distilleries in Scotland? And he's meaning in your lifetime. So have you had a dram from every closed distillery?
Oh, well, I haven't tried Malt Mill. Sukender, if you're there. But I think so. It's in Scotland, you know, there's closed distilleries all over. At one point
specifically asked me.
Okay. At one point during the tastings, I think I was able to say that we tried a whiskey from every distillery in Scotland that closed after Malt Mill closed. Unfortunately, the buggers started opening up again. So, you know, I've not tried anything from the Borders distillery, for example. But that's a good very positive thing. After living through the winter of the 1980s of closures, it seems like it's springtime for Scotland and its distilleries. So long may that continue.
Well, so there, Johan, you got your answer. I'm pretty sure he knew that answer already. He just asked that. That's great. No, I can't. I don't know if it's old age or if I'm just pure lazy, but I can't bring myself to learn off by heart who closed and who opened again, or what. I can't keep up and have other things going on. So that's where I'm struggling. So when people say, oh, when they talk about closed distilleries, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm not 100% sure. That's not an area of my expertise. But you're definitely up on that. You've tried them all.
Oh, as far as I know, yes. And at the beginning, I spent a long time reading and researching, and there was no children, so everything was just sponged up. But I seem to forget an awful lot. I wonder why that might be. And keep, as you say, Jenny, keeping up with the new stuff. It's a bit frustrating that there's so much to keep up with.
Yes.
I rely on the team that I work with to tell me, you know, I shuffle out the office like an old granddad, you know, and they'll say, Granddad, there's a new distillery in Scotland, did you know? And it's a bit embarrassing, to be honest.
It's hard. It's hard to keep up with it. It's not because I don't care. It's because my capacity of keeping that information in is very little. I can see Ian has joined us from Glenmurray, so that's lovely. We were talking about Glenmurray earlier.
Hello.
Hello, lovely distillery. And if you're in Elgin, you should pop in and see them. Obviously, after we are allowed, when we're allowed, when things are better. Yeah. Hey, so just sort of randomly in your shop, just because I don't know, I find these things quite. Have you been asked anything incredibly stupid? When we open, he says, "Yes, Ian, that's a good plan. I still need to come in and buy my tea pot. I'd love a little 1 cup of tea, Glenmurray pot. They're so cute and perfect pour." Yes, so in the shop you do get asked. We were talking about questions you get asked, but like, have you had famous people in? Have you had any strange questions that you've been asked? You are on middle of Princes Street. I've been in your shop during the festival, and the things and people, and I don't know, people sometimes come into your shop. It's phenomenal. You get some range.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it is quite a test, you know, when you've worked in the ferocious heat of August in Edinburgh. Sometimes it gets up to 14 degrees centigrade in there, you know. And when you've talked to some tourist for the 1000th time with the same daft question, to keep that kind of you know, enthusiasm within you alive, it's quite tricky. And when I was doing teacher training, some wise old sage said, "There's no such thing as a stupid question." And I thought, that's brilliant. You know, you've got to remember that people are asking quick questions because they need answers. He was wrong. There are stupid questions, and I've been asked a lot of stupid questions. You know, oh, I can't even remember. And it's people getting things wrong. You know, Lagavulin, yeah, you know, it's a south of Elgin, and I hate peaty whiskey. If you get anything like Lefroy,
yeah,
it's difficult to come back to that person. You know.
So you have to then make a decision. Do you say to this person that I think you might be wrong, or you just play along and go, well, I hear you. You should buy Lefroy. It's hard, isn't it? You just have to. I mean, the customer is always right at the end of the day, so you just probably have to play along a little bit.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah, it is a bit difficult not to offend people when they're grossly wrong. And I don't know, you pretend to be hard of hearing or something like that, and sort of make some polite suggestions. What's quite good is you give them a taste of something not peaty and peaty, because it's a thing that some people taste peat when other people don't, and
Yeah.
if you're dealing with a complete stranger, it helps to know what they're talking about when they say smoky, peaty, not smoky, not peaty. So a couple of samples, and then very quickly, you're usually on the road to getting the bottle for the person after 2 or 3 samples. It's
Yeah.
when the person's tried 10 samples and they're asking for the first one again, you think,
Something not right there. No, and you're right. Sampling works a treat. They do tend to narrow down what they're looking for by sampling. It's such a great shop, and also you're also quite close to the courthouse, which maybe because I'm a nosy Nancy, but I think it's quite intriguing when what's going on in the courthouse when I'm down in your shop as well. And there's been media storms outside, and yeah, you're right in the middle of it there where you are. Since this outbreak of COVID, how has your life changed then within Royal Mile Whiskies? What was the shop obviously had to close, but were you straight away put on furlough?
Very quickly, yes. I mean, the difficulty with this situation was really nobody knew what was happening tomorrow, including politicians and people who make all the legislation, the bureaucrats. They didn't know. It's a bit of a roll of the dice. So maybe we loaded the dice with a bit of optimism and hope, and with bearing in mind, you're not being. I don't think can be too cautious. But then, of course, the economy is all part of the bigger scheme.
Wow.
So yes, I mean, greatest admiration for the guys that I work for. They sort of did absolutely the right thing, and gradually, just like spring, the shoots are poking up, and
Oh no, you cut out again. Oh, sorry, Mark.
oh, sorry.
Let me see. Yeah, there we go.
I've because of the weather. I mean, if this happened in November, December, January, I think there'd be a lot more issues than the fact that it's 21, 22 degrees centigrade today. And I've got to bear in mind some of my colleagues have had to work in that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, exactly. Not everybody is furloughed. Some of the warehouse staff will still be working. Obviously, I take it Royal Mile Whiskies are still shipping. I know that Arthur is running your YouTube channel, which is quite successful. I've been watching a few interviews on there. I think he's actually talking to Anthony Wills right now.
Right now.
So don't leave us. But so that's a lot of distillers and shop and whiskey companies have gone. While Mark is signing back on again. Hello, there you are.
Hello.
Can see you?
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Well, so
Missed it.
So we know obviously the Royal Mile Whiskies aren't alone in this, and I have friends that have bars, and they've just today been told that insurance doesn't cover them, and what are they going to do next? It's impossible. It's such a tough time. Nobody knew, nobody knows, nobody still knows what's going to happen. So we have to wait and see, I suppose. But personally, what have you? So since you were furloughed, and what have you picked up any new skills? Have you learned Japanese? Are you knitting? And do you do yoga?
Ooh, that's a bit of pressure, Jenny. All of those, obviously. My Japanese used to be a bit rusty, but now it's completely seized. But I had 5 days without alcohol, if that's any good to you.
Well done.
And the house has never been cleaner. No disrespect to my wife, but I've learned I've learned the art of deep cleaning. I cleaned the conservatory roof as if that needed done.
It did.
I think, I think what I've relearned the art of is the art of family. Yeah, that's a bit corny, isn't it? Because you don't see each other when you're working. We're
Oh,
watching
Mark,
telly,
you're
playing
cutting out again.
games, having a laugh, walking the dog, eating together. I think that's.
Well, I know people with older kids. So your kids aren't legal to drink yet, I believe. They're a bit younger, aren't they?
Right.
Because I spoke to somebody that I spoke to somebody who's got 4 kids, and 2 in university and 2 are in the late teens or mid to late teens, and I think they were all home during the lockdown. And he said that his drink and food bill during the lockdown has just been insane. So my children are 4 and 6. They are not drinking my whiskey, which is good, but they are eating me out of the house every minute of the day. Can we have a snack? Is there snack time? Is it snack? So you're spending a lot of time together. Oh, are you moving rooms now, Mark? Because I think you've lost you again. Try and get you back. It is what it is. I mean, I have friends that have different situations at home, and they're very successful in oh, hi! You should have paid your bills, that's for sure. I love how you can actually type and then just pop up again. That's a good skill. You're good.
You're on your toes.
Yeah, totally.
Does it make good for good Instagram? I've never seen anything on Instagram.
What's that? Keeping on toes? Oh no!
Oh dear.
Stay with me. Stay with me. Actually, we've been on for quite a while. I've got a few more questions, and then I'll let you go back to your lovely family. I was going to ask. Well, I was just going to say I have friends that are learning to play the guitar, learning different languages, and I'm not one of them. I am it's survival for me. It's about survival, and I have survived this far. Let's see how many more weeks we've got to be locked in for. Okay, Mark, you've completely gone now. You just didn't you didn't want to be with me anymore. You're just like, oh, she's rubbish. I'm just going. That's it. Bye. Because for some reason you can post, but your video isn't working. Let's try and get Mark back. Have you got a dram? I can hear glasses clinking.
Oh, is there
there we go. The audio seems to be working fine. Have you got some kind of, you can just mess with the screen whenever you need to.
Exactly. It's a mute button. It costs extra, that.
So very excitingly, you have a tasting tomorrow. How do you do a tasting on lockdown, in lockdown even?
Well, there's this thing called Zoom. I'm not sure many people knew about Zoom before 6-7 weeks ago, but it's a good way to get together. And I've done one already, and the second one, I think we should learn from the first one a little bit of the tricks and how to do it a little bit easier, and getting together socially, albeit at distance. Over a screen. The guys that I've been doing it with are pretty much known to me. There's been a few guys I don't know, but the atmosphere of a proper social tasting, there's a little bit of that magic. I think people just enjoy something a little bit different from the 4 walls that they've been looking at for weeks and weeks, and the telly and the same chat, and of course, yeah, after dram number 3, as always, everything's taken care of. It's all very, my word, self-propelled. It just takes care of itself.
Yeah. So practically, how do you do it? So you'll have maybe 10 people joining you on Zoom, and then do they have the same? Do you tell them what whiskies to get beforehand, or do you have samples sent out, or?
Well, I like to do blind tastings, Jenny, so that people don't know what they're tasting.
That's right, so yeah.
They, in my opinion, judge it honestly on the merits of its qualities, how it tastes, how it smells, and all like that.
Yeah.
So, I would get the drams to them, and that's the awkward thing, because it's so expensive to send them in the post.
Yeah.
Only so many people live within a sensible distance of me delivering them. But yeah, we'll just try them blind, and I'll ask them their opinion, and we'll, you know, let them know what it is that they've been trying. Last week we had a couple of whiskies that were bottled 20 years apart from the same distillery. So
cool.
So it was interesting to see, you know, was the old one more fashionable or the new one more popular?
Yeah.
And there wasn't really, if I can remember rightly, a clear distinction that one was more popular than the other. I think some of the people that were attending were older, so they were more familiar with the older style, and some of the more recent whiskey drinkers found familiarity and comfort with the new style. So yeah, it was a bit of a laugh. What can I say? There's lots of it happening. It's very positive.
That's great. No, I mean, a lot of whiskey tasters like us and distilleries are doing the online tastings now, and I think it's proven quite successful. And it might be something that stays with us even when life goes back to normal. Why not? It means that you can have people joining you from all over the world. You know.
Yeah, we've got the time difference. A good friend of mine, Craig's in Tasmania, and it would be wonderful to you know.
Hi, Craig, if you're watching the video later on, because I want to try and post it later.
Good point. And you know, all of the time difference to do it live is a bit clunky.
Yeah.
And then I suppose we've got the quality of the connection that we are finding tonight isn't the best. But and I know whiskey's guilty of a few wrongs, but one of the great things about it is it does bring people together. You know, alcohol will lower your inhibitions, but as I'm sure all of us are happy with, is that, you know, after a few drams we've got something in common, we can chat, and we stop talking about whiskey eventually and let's talk about other stuff. So to do that on a national scale, I think you're quite right. You know, after COVID's over, I don't think these tastings are over. I think it's a new seed planted by this after this big forest fire.
Yeah. I think so. I think, well, funny you should say about the Australian time difference. I belong to this book club. I use the word book loosely because apparently we're a wine club with a book problem, or we tend to drink wine and not read so many books. And there was a bunch of Australians in the beginning of the book club. We're talking about, yeah, probably 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. So during this being locked in the house for so long, we decided to do an Australian book club. And that meant the Scottish girls had to sacrifice their morning and drink wine at 11 a.m. Mind you, being Scottish, now I'm not Scottish, but my Scottish friends had no problem with that at all whatsoever. And I was there with a cup of tea. But then I gave in, and the day was ruined, honestly. It was ruined. It can be done, though, if you really want to. It can be done.
Yeah, dedication will get you places, you know.
For sure. So, I mean, I've just been chatting nonsense. My first time interviewing anybody on Instagram, and it's your first time on Instagram. I've got a few more questions, a couple of silly ones that has been sent to me, and I will ask you them. But I've also got a couple of silly ones. I want to know your favourite Scottish word. What is the favourite Scottish word?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good question. Well, my mum is from the northeast, and she's got some great words. Yeah. And I'll just pick one. A dicht.
Oh, excuse me?
Dicht.
Look, dicht.
Giet a dicht. It means just clean it, I think. You know, there's
what is it?
Just to clean it. Just.
Oh.
You know, if it's not, you know, worthy of putting on the table, all you need to do is clean it up a bit. So you giet a dicht.
Oh, right. Giet a dicht.
Aye.
All right. I've never heard that word before, and it's a good word. I shall treasure it.
You see?
Something that another a book club friend of mine says a lot, which does make me chuckle every time, is, and it's not proper Scottish, but it's just something she says and it makes me laugh. And a lot of Scottish people make me laugh, which is why I live here. He says, "You're ripping my knitting." So I tell my 4-year-old that every day, but he's ripping my knitting. So Ian actually is asking, Ian, I don't think you've missed it, but I've not really been pushing for whiskey drinking today, but Ian Allen from Glenmurray is asking, Mark, what you're drinking this evening? Oh, what whiskey is Mark drinking this evening? Are you drinking a whiskey? It's not really, is it?
Well, yes, it is whiskey.
Oh, it is.
It's called Uncle Duke's. It's North British grain whiskey. I think it's in virgin oak casks, so it's got a lot of United States overtones. The only reason I'm drinking this one, Ian, is I don't know, the cabinet's full of other stuff. It's a little bit heavy-handed, and it's a nice, light, easygoing dram for a day such as this, because it's 20 degrees out there or something. So cheers, Ian. Cheers, Jenny. Cheers, the rest of the whiskey crowd.
I think, Ian, I hope I answered your questions. Yeah, I struggle to drink whiskey when it's too warm. Unless it's in what the Japanese do, a highball. Oh yes, there we go, Glenmurray. Which one is that? The
it's
17.
Just the bottle. It's my mate gave me some Port Charlotte in it.
Oh, cheers, says Ian. Glenmurray is a great distillery. I love their expressions. I must say they're good. I hope you're okay, Ian, up there. So I've got a silly question. Well, I'm already pre-warning you, but a question from somebody in Bowness that you might know. He's asked. Yes, is that his name? Fox Niblo? Is that it?
Yeah, Robert Fox Niblo. That's yeah.
His question was, I should have written it down, but it was something along the lines to, why are your girls funnier than you?
Well, I think you know the answer to that, yeah, because I'm not very funny.
No, I think they have learned their funniness from somewhere. And thank you so much for spending 50 minutes blethering to me tonight. Somebody from my home village is saying that that you're blurred, but I don't think it's due to the whiskey. I think it's due to your Wi-Fi, rather. But yeah, I have really enjoyed chatting with you. Blurred or non-blurred, it was good. I feel like I could probably talk to you for a good other hour and more, because you've prompted more questions that I didn't want to just dive into. But your knowledge in whiskey is phenomenal, and I wonder, is there anything you don't know? Obviously, you don't know it.
Why, man? You might just blow me.
Why, man? It's been.
If I could remember half the stuff I've forgotten, I would impress myself. You know, I've really forgotten an awful lot. That's just getting old, I think. But it's been great fun, Jenny.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for being my victim today. I don't know what's for trying it out and humouring me. But it's been
it was easy.
It's been good. Tomorrow I'm speaking with. Hey, what was that?
Oh.
I think that was maybe my internet. So we're probably losing bandwidth. I don't know what I'm talking about. But it was great. Thank you so much for being with me and sharing your family. And I might actually, let's do this again, but be a bit more professional. And who knows, when you're back in it's totally impossible. Tomorrow I'm talking to the guys in Jeffrey Street Whiskey and Cigars. They're lovely. And I always enjoy chatting with them, and they are from great guys. So if you have any questions you want to pose either to the guys tomorrow or to any of my future guests, actually, I would happily pass them on. So I've got Mark Watt, Stuart Buchanan, I've got the Jeffrey Street guys, Laura Himi from Rowan Co in Dublin, and Shilton. So if you have any questions for any one of them, you're more than welcome to just send them on to me. Mark, you can pass a question on as well if you want.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Pardon?
All the best, everybody. All the best.
Take care. Lovely to see you all. Bye-bye.